In an unrelated topic, you pay for your education. Um, the only guy who actually listened to me about this was Mao. Um, Essentially, the truth is that the first time that you run into something, it's like training. Like if you're a kid or something like that, the pay precedes the action. And so if you're learning about learning, in and of a sense, the lesson will run out. As in, you either didn't make it or you accomplished it. Um, so far as paying for your education and then like some sort of demand for that, it would have to be wrong. You would have to be unlearning something. And why I would want to do that, nobody knows. And then why I would be forced to do that is completely illegal in terminologies of it's a crime to teach a man to not defend himself, or the state of the mind, 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 state of the mind, the mind of the state, the state of the mind of the state. Or it basically all gets wrapped up in don't conceive the system. And then we're over into things like law of 2 feet, which is you're either learning something or teaching something or you're walking. Um, yeah, the only guy that listened was Mao. Um, and then that's the fact. See, so then there's rumors about education, sure, but they're not true. That's not learning, that's not ascertaining, that's not gripping the lesson. And then in terminologies of having to pay for that, it's more like that you actually have to go through and actually learn it. So I don't really know how the whole payment thing gets into education, particularly in an open source system where all information is available all the time, which is Buddhism. When all information, that's Jiddu Krishnamurti, when all information is available all the time, and you see yourself as that, you exist without fear, doubt, etc. All fear comes to fear of death. You're beyond it. At that point, it's constitutional. So this other thing is not constitutional. Specifically, terrorism, unlearning, Freudianism stop, slavery, the Antichrist, Bundism, nationalism, particularly white nationalism, because it ends up being a rumor. You know, if you're really proud of like your little thing, it ends up not transferring to other people. So if you act on that, you end up looking funny. Is about the worst as it gets. You know, which isn't a crime. It's just personality, so to speak, that you haven't achieved. So if you think that way and you feel that way, and that's your environment, the onus is not on the total environment. It's that you're skewed a little bit. You're emotionally fucked up some, which is where all of the Bundism comes in. So whenever it comes to the onus of having to pay for, in a sense, your re-education, whenever from the get-go you purposely embraced something that was incorrect, no one can provide that. Meanwhile, you haven't accomplished anything that I've sat here and written down. So your whole exercise of, I don't know what you're talking about, doesn't work. And that's the algorithm that you're maintaining. You've run out. You've run into yourself. Which shouldn't have had to happen. It's just that you brought the war about that. Had you actually looked at things correctly, you would have recognized those dangers and you would have, as yourself, avoided them rather than taking those dangers, packaging them in some sort of pop culture, proud fear laughed out, um, annihilatory context that doesn't exist, but you do it anyway to try to achieve that, etc. No. No, 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 no. So anyway, the only person who listened to me on that was Mao. And we said that a long time ago. That was back when like sex precedes love, government precedes money. It deals with education. The first time that you learn something, the pay precedes the action. So whenever it comes to things like, for example, socialism, I'm giving you that much money such that you do not have to get tangled up in unlearnedness. And so that's why they're preventing it, so that they can keep you in that unlearnedness and continue to hold you inside of a echelon or bubble of terror to make you a slave, but not like we're buddy buddy. It's you don't get things like an animal, like a poisonous animal, like a poisonous alien animal that deserves, in a sense, is what they attribute to you, deserves, in a sense, to destroy all humankind, but then out of fear and backlash is kept in this cage. No one's provided that. No one's provided the deserve to destroy all humankind, nor the rightfulness of keeping somebody in a cage, nor how doing that prevents the other thing. So by the time that you get all the way up to that, learning about learning, these various contexts, there's one correct one, and that's it. You don't recognize it. But that non-recognition, that non-understanding of what is reality doesn't speak to your context. That stuff's already there, which is closer. So now you're doing all of this work against that which is reality. It's not like I'm going to paint against the canvas and then make the canvas, and you're stealing things out of reality. On top of it, whenever you do that, you don't learn jack shit. You just throw it away. And then whatever you took is no longer there, meaning in terminology of polarism, you've now moved into that spot. What was once there is now not. And instead of what once was, is now this which is you, which is garbage, which is a disease, which is cancer. Anyway, Mao is the only guy who listened to me on that. The pay precedes the lesson the first time that you do something. So if you're talking with kids, for example, if you do that whole carrot on a stick sort of thing, which is really what capitalism is, it's just that you never get to the carrot. See, and then they reuse the carrot. By the time that you start to understand that you can't get the carrot, they clue you into their context of, we never give away the carrot. We throw the carrot, all the way around. We don't even, it said it was expensive. It's not expensive. We don't even use it. We just want you to not have it. And that's the debt that is capitalism. You don't gain that. You lose what you could have been. You don't cash out. You sit there in a thump and you die. You roll over. And the bad people, the reason they make money off of it, in and of a sense, is because they're on the wrong side. So that whole competition thing is a total farce. We're not in competition. They're in competition with kind of nothing. In a sense, their own non-speed. And so that whole, what would it be? Obstruction of justice. From the very get-go, if you're a Republican in office, you're charged with obstruction of justice from day one. If you vote as a Republican, you're the same thing. This is how RICO is now going to get rid of the Republican Party. Thing is that we don't even really so much need it, other than an invading illustration, to say simply that it is Republicans. So we don't have to go through and do all of these little tasks of, this person is like this, are you a registered Republican? you've committed treason.